Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another live session of Microsoft Fabric. Uh, and actually learn Microsoft Fabric with Merdot. I hope you've enjoyed the live sessions and enjoying the actually learning Fabric. You know. In your learning path with Microsoft Learn. So yeah, just write for me if you have started to learn or if you have completed your challenge and how far are you with your challenge. Hey, Javier from Spain. Yeah. So just write for me where from the world you're connecting from. Yeah, just say hi. And let me prepare my space. Hi, Shanti. Oh, Javier, well done. Scheduled the exam for June 24th. Awesome. Just make sure that you're going to complete your learning path. Actually, the learning path that is for Build Challenge and also for Fabric Engineer is not covering the whole concept of the the exam, right? But good luck with that, and I'm sure you're gonna get it. I will write for this exam maybe next month, late or your rest of July, and in that time frame. So yeah, let's kick it off. Let me. Oh, there was a voucher. No, that's fine. That's fine. Cool. There will be another, I think, opportunity for. There is another opportunity for getting a 50% off. Vouchers for for the exam by completing a challenge of Microsoft Learn for Fabric Data, Fabric Engineer, and I'm not sure if it is going to be added to your profile since you already have one, but or if even if you have used the same thing. Cool. Let me share my screen and kick it off. And for those who are watching the recorded video, just feel free to just add in the comments that how far you are with the challenge and how far you've been with the learning, and what if there was any difficulty or experiences that you would like to share with your peers and with others. Let me share my screen. Cool. It is Merdot, and welcome to the session number 4. I'm a principal data architect, and I'm very glad to be part of this learning together in Fabric. And here is my LinkedIn. You can just feel free to scan it and just let's connect in LinkedIn as well. If you would like to join the group of Learn Microsoft Fabric with me, you can just join there. You can post your questions, or if there is any experience that you would like to share with others, feel free to do that there. And so far, we have completed 3 sessions. That was fantastic. Now we are almost in the halfway of the challenge, session number 4. The challenge of build actually Microsoft build, which was started May 21st, and it will be last for a month, which is going to be finished in 2 weeks and something, 16, 15 days. And yeah, and today we are going to talk about two modules, two sections in Fabric, which is the data factory items, data factory pipelines, and also how to work with Dataflow Gen 2. The first module that we have is use data factory pipelines in Microsoft Fabric. What we are going to learn today is basically the learning objectives of the first module, as you can just be able to describe the pipeline capabilities in Fabric, how to use the data, actually copy data activity in Fabric in a pipeline, and also working with the other activities, not only the data, but it is the learning objective of the module in Microsoft Learn. But we will work more on the other activities as much as we can. And basically, you will learn how to build the pipelines based on templates. And at the end, you can just run and monitor the pipelines. Initially, let's understand the ingestion of data from transactional database, from transactional data into analytical data. Of course, we need to move the data from a transactional side to a basically an analytical side. For this one, there are many ways, but in order to we're gonna process that, there's two ways. We can either do the ETL or do ELT. For ETL, it means that you're gonna extract the data from your source, transform it in between, and then load it to your data destination. It can be a data lake house, or it can be a data warehouse, or even files, right? But at the end of that, we will have a the capability of utilizing that data for the analysis purposes. In the ELT, we have the opportunity to extract and load the data directly to a destination, and then we will just transform that loaded data. And after that, it can be also loaded to another destination, and then or the same destination even, and then just being utilized by analytical services. So so far we have worked on some activities and some sections in Fabric to load and ingest data into Microsoft Fabric. Initially, we uploaded the data directly from our local machine into Lakehouse, right? We could we explored how to create the shortcuts there. And also in Spark, we could use the notebook to load data and transform it. And today we are going to talk about pipeline and data flows. And there are also, of course, there are other ways to get the data, transform it, and just analyze it in Fabric. It is very open to to use, and each of them, of course, have some best practice scenarios. And yeah, that's it. And first, let's understand what is a pipeline. What is pipeline in general and in Fabric? So pipelines are basically, they are coming from Azure Data Factory. If you're familiar with the Azure Data Factory, then good for you. It's going to be much easier for you to understand it and digest it for yourself. But as a a general definition of that, we can say a pipeline is a logical, actually grouping of activities that are going to perform a single unit, a unit of a work, right? It can be, for example, loading the data and then transforming that. Extracting the data, transform it, and load it somewhere, or even in between you do other activities, for example, calling a REST API, or I don't know, just send something in your Teams, Microsoft Teams chat to the group, and so on and so forth. So you have a wide range of activities that you can just do the task and job that you need to to be performed in within your pipeline. The pipelines are basically are going to orchestrate a set of control or task flows, and each of those control flows is called an activity. And activities can be used for, as I mentioned, for loading the data, for copying the data, for transforming them, and so on and so forth. And of course, in Fabric, it made actually easy, and also it was in Azure Data Factory, so that we have a canvas, and actually for each pipeline, that it is going to give you a better experience of just creating them, dragging them, and creating the activities, and having an interactive implementation for your pipeline. And it is basically going to give you an experience of low to no code processes. There are some core concepts of pipelines that we need to just understand them. First of all, let's talk about the activities. So we notice that activities are going to be part of a pipeline. So we can just define them as executable tasks in a pipeline. Single executable task in a pipeline is called an activity. Previously in SSIS, we called them, task flow, and where each of them was a task, called a task. But here it is called activity. And basically, in actually, we can a series of activities that are going to be actually in a sequence to do some jobs, right? And they can be executed together at the same time, or they can follow each other. And in following, we can specify on success of this activity, just go for the next activity. And even on the failure or completion, or even on skip. And of course, the activities within a pipeline can be deactivated or activated. There are two main activity types in pipeline in Fabric that are basically the first category is data movement and data transformation activities that we have copy data, data flows, and notebooks. We've got a start procedure to execute the SQL script. We can delete the data. We have the activity for delete data. We can run the Spark job definitions. We can have the HDN site activities and also SQL scripts. Alongside that, we have the control flow activities that are going to have some controlling stuff. For example, if you're coming from a programming background, then we can just implement the loops, and it is going to, for example, execute it for each for each item of an array. Or even you can have conditional branching, right? If something happened, go for this. If something else happened, go for the other one. or even you can manage the variables there and parameters to have it as a dynamic, pipeline. And we've got other kind of activities which are also for controlling. We can deactivate another activity, or we can just execute or invoke the other pipelines. We can execute the Azure functions, and we can just do an action in Teams by sending a message to a group of people, in Teams. And also we will have the lookup activity, web activity, and other things, right? The next, we will just watch, actually have a look at them in the pipeline itself. We will have, we have parameters in pipeline that, we can just parameterize the pipeline to have a more dynamic experience of the pipelines. And for example, you can just change the file name of a destination when you're loading the data based on date and time, or changing even the directory of that file that can be as part of your destination when you're copying the data, or the other things, which is going to increase your reusability of pipeline and its flexibility, of course. And at the end, for the pipelines, we will have the capability of runs of the pipelines. When we run and execute the pipelines, we can just monitor that. We can just have a look at what happened to that run, and for each step, we will have a log of them. When basically a pipeline is executed, a execution ID is going to be assigned to that, and you can just do use that for your basically for your analysis and investigations further. And a pipeline can be executed on demand, manually, or it can be scheduled even. It can be triggered. It is a new thing. It is in preview. You can trigger actually a pipeline, for example, when something happens in a lake house, or an event actually happens within Fabric or somewhere else, then the pipeline is going to be kicked off. So in order to create a new pipeline, we can just create it from the data factory. We can create it in your workspace or lakehouse, and then when you are going to create it, you can start from different points from here, as you can see in the bottom of this slide. That you can start with an activity. It is going to give you a blank canvas, or even you can use the other wizard stuff that are going to give you some assistance. For example, for copying the data, it is going to just give you some sort of steps to complete it. What is the source? What is the destination? What is how, if you want to do something, and then bring your credentials, whatever that is needed there. You have some steps there, and then kick it off. Of course, after creation of that, wizard stuff with those assistants, it is going to be customizable. You can just make your changes there, and even parameterize it, whatever that you would like to do with that activity and with that pipeline. We also have the capability of, just practicing with the sample data. If you would like to, it is going to quickly, just create a pipeline for you and bring the data for you. And we can have the templates there, that are created for a specific use in, based on the scenarios in the market. We will cover that. But let's just have a look at the environment itself. Let's jump into our Fabric portal, So, and let's go to the data factory. As I mentioned, you can create your data pipeline here, and even in the workspace, you can just create the data pipeline here. But let's go to, let me just close this, guys. Have a much space here. And yeah, in the data factory, we can create a data pipeline. Let's call it something. We are in DP-600 session 4, right? Session 4 pipeline 01. Let's create that. Yeah, as I mentioned, you can start. It started from a blank, canvas, or even you can start with a copy data assistant, or use the templates here. So let me check my slides if, okay. Cool. The next one that I want to talk about is, we can just start it from here. We will just create the pipelines later. But let's just have a look at this one. For the templates, we can have some sort of templates that are pre-built there, and we can just create it. We can have a bulk copy from the database, or even reading the data from multiple stuffs, or reading the data from your SQL to Lakehouse, right? Azure SQL to Lakehouse. And other things, or delta copy from a database. It is going to give you some ideas how to work with them. Or for example, a nice one is that you're going to delete the files which are older than 30 days, for example. Let's just select one of them. It is going to just ask you about the connection where you want to check the files in, and actually what files are going to be deleted. Cool. Let's back to our slide. Yeah, we could, however, we can create the pipeline from scratch, or you can utilize the templates. Of course, after that, we can customize it. Yeah, let's do some activities in the pipeline itself. But before that, let's just have a quick look at the copy data activity, which is basically the main section of a pipeline when you want to copy the data, right? You want to bring it in. You don't have to do that. It is not a must thing to do in a pipeline, but mostly, and it is going to be utilized by data engineers to copy the data if it is required. In some cases, you don't have to copy your data there, and you only need the pipeline to do the orchestration in your data factory. So, but about the copy data activity, we should say that it is a common activity for copying the data from a source to a destination at scale. And in Fabric, there are, of course, a wide range of sources that you can use for loading the data. And in order to utilize this activity, you can either use it, as that assistant that we mentioned, and we will work on that. And also, you can just add it as a blank one to your canvas, and just customize it from the setting section. As part of a pipeline activity, as we mentioned, it can be followed or following the another activity, or even it can be executed by its own and not going to be connected with any other activities after completion or before completion of something else. And basically, we need to understand when we are going to use copy the data. If it is really the scenario that you are going to utilize that, or you can consider the other ways. Basically, when you need a copy of your data before transformation, it is a good time maybe to copy your data into Fabric, right? And I'm saying there are the other ways to bring the data in Fabric. We can use the shortcuts, we can use the mirrored, databases, and it really depends on the scenario that you are going to perform, actually, and you're going to create your pipeline for. But here, if you don't really need to copy the raw data in your database and then transform it, maybe the other option can be useful for you, like data flow. In the data flow, you can load it from a data source, transform it, and you can just extract it from your data source, transform it in the between, and then load it somewhere else, right? But for copying the data, we are copying everything in our destination, right? The destination can be outside, but of course, we are just moving that data 100% and then doing the transformation on that. So yeah, let's go to our assistant here. I will choose the copy data assistant, and then let me bring it up. So let's have a look at this one and see what are the sources available. If you click on more, you can see the categories of available data sources in Fabric for copy data. So as you can see, we have the files, databases, Power Platform, Azure, online services, and others. For the files, you can see we have the file servers, or even reading the data from Oracle Cloud Storage. We will have in the databases for the Azure SQL Server database, which is going to be on-prem, and you will have to utilize the gateways to load the data. Oracle databases, we will have the snowflakes, or lots of things, MongoDB, whatever that you need from your source databases. And we also have the opportunity of using Dataverse from Power Platform, from the Azure services, whatever that you need from the data lake storage account, or from the Azure blobs from Synapse, Azure SQL databases, or even Azure Files and Azure Tables. And we've also got some, one for online services, which is the SharePoint, that you can just get the data from SharePoint. And the other things that are not listed there, listed to the other categories, you can utilize a, HTTP to get a data, or even getting the data from a REST API, from Amazon, from whatever that you would like to have here. So for this example, we're going to use the HTTP one, right? And there is a URL in the module exercise. We will use the same thing. And I've already created that connection, but you can also create a new connection and see whatever that is it has. You can just give it a name. And if there is any gateway required for the URL, there's no need to create the gateway. Gateway are basically for those on-prem data sources. But yeah, and that's it. And for the authentication, we can just leave it as anonymous, or we can also use the basic authentication. But I've already created that one, and let's use this guy. And This section is basically for, when we are going to use the REST API, we can just skip this guy. The file that we actually, the file that we've created, actually we are trying to download is a CSV file. It is a comma separated one. It is detected here, and we can do the other, configuration, other settings here, and even first row as header or something. And we can just use a destination for it, right? Where it is going to be, basically, load our data, right? We can create the a new lake house. Let me just see what is it is token expired. Oh, let me check if I have to reload it. Unhandled HTTP request expiration. Let me just reload my Fabric. Okay. Let's do it again. It's been no open for a while in my site. Maybe it was because of that one. And this guy is going to, we can create a new one. Let's call it new con. My connection 02, for example. And if it is going to work or it doesn't allow to duplicate, which is fine. It is, detected. Let's wait for this guy. In this case, we are just working with the files, right? And the file formats, available file formats are there. Then we can just create it. Let me just create, a new lake house. I will call it DP-600 S04 lake house. And then create and connect. You can utilize the existing lakehouse, of course, for each individual, loading and copying the data. You don't have to, create a lakehouse, right? And where will be our destination? Is it going to be a file like this? You can just load it as a file directly, and you can just change the type. It is a new thing that you can just change your basically a destination column type. But for this scenario, we are going to just load it as a file, right? And we can just say, let's call the directory as new data, and the file name will be sales.csv. That's it. Let's go to the next. Then source is the HTTP. The destination is our lakehouse. We can save it and even run it. So once it is going to be executed, we can see the result in output, right? That how long it took, when it was started, and what was the input, what was the output of this specific control flow from this basically activity. And in the run history, it is still running. It is copying the data. It is succeeded. Awesome. We can just check that. And okay, by selecting an activity in Fabric, we can see the settings, in the bottom, right? That you can just change its name, for example. Let's do that. Copy file from HTTP, for example. We can add some descriptions. You can just activate it or deactivate it from the whole pipeline. As you can see, you can even change your source, the settings that we have done, just settings that we have completed during that assistant and that wizard. Even you can just edit your connection if any, credential is being changed, or even test your connection. And about the destination, the same story. You can just configure it here. Even you can have the opportunity of just having a dynamic value for that. If you are familiar with the expression builder, then you can just utilize this guy to create an expression instead of having a hard-coded file name. We will do that later a bit. But you can just make use of the variable, in the system if there is any, parameters or any, and also make using of the functions and other variables. But for now, let's leave it as is. And in terms of the mapping, there was no, table in the destination, so there is no mapping for that. And also other settings that you can just enable your logging and the other things. So the data is actually the pipeline is executed. The data should be loaded. Let's have a look at this in our workspace. We should have a lake house that we have created for this session. It is our lake house. So in this lake house, as you can see, as we mentioned, the new data folder is going to be created there, and the CSV file that we have copied, right? And you can see the data here. That's fine. Let's back to our pipeline. In the pipeline, we can just have the activities, right? Let's have a look at the activities. Just have a look at the pipeline environment itself. In the home page, we can, have just some sort of, saving that, or, in the setting, you can change its name or description. And even you can just schedule that if you would like to for the execution. And, we can just have some endorsements in terms of its credit, to just have some credit to your pipeline, and label that for the sensitivity or whatever that is required in terms of the pipeline itself. So once the pipeline is created, you can validate it. You can just with this validation, there was no error. It's going to have a look at everything, and you can run it. As I mentioned, it can be executed on demand, or you can schedule it. And for trigger, it is in preview, and which you can just selecting an event, and for example, here you're gonna just for example, for the events, you need to just understand how it is going to be triggered here, right? So, for example, adding, working it with a blob storage, right? And then we're gonna configure that when a new, for example, file is added, it is going to be triggered from that side. And Yeah, you can just view the run history of the whole runs that has been actually performed. And then you can go for the monitor and some activities here, basic activities that are also available in this section in the menu of actually the ribbon of activities itself. You can copy the data. As I mentioned, you can just add it to Canvas like this. You can have more than one, copy data, right? It is not necessarily one thing in a pipeline, whatever that makes sense to your scenario. And you could also actually use that copy assistant as we did, and other activities. So for the other activities, we can add a data flow, which will be actually discussed later in this session. We can have the notebooks. We can create a notebook, right? We can create a notebook, and from here we can just say on completion of this, on failure of this, and on success of this. Let's say I'm just dragging and dropping to this notebook, and we can have other activities, running scripts, running a stored procedure, or even setting a variable if conditions, and for each, and invoking another pipeline, adding your teams, and so on and so forth. And you can here see another list of the activities that are available in pipeline. And you can delete the data. You can just orchestrate the whole pipeline with executing whatever that is needed in your pipeline. For now, let's have the notebook. So let's say transform cells. Let's call it transform cells. And in the setting, from what workspace you want, you can either create a notebook here, from here, or just utilize an existing notebook that is going to be loaded, actually, to be linked to this pipeline. And we can just filter on the workspace that you're working on, and from the notebook, you can just list it, just select it from whatever that you have there. I've already have a notebook in Notebook 10, but we can create it from scratch as well. It is nothing special, really. But let's have a look at that together and see what is there. Because in the previous session we have talked about the notebooks, and if we can find it, yeah, it is here. What does it do? This notebook is basically looking at the data that we have already loaded. But for the lake house, let me change my lake house, and the lake house that I want is here. Yeah, let me add this lake house and save it. It is saved. Yeah. And then we can just execute it here, or it can be executed in the pipeline itself, right? We are just creating that to be executed in pipeline. It's done. I just want to make sure that changing this lake house is not affecting the whole scenario. What does this basically pipeline do is, it is loading the data. This notebook do, it is just loading the data in our data frame, and it is just doing some data transformation. For example, creating a new column called year, or another column, called first name, by splitting the customer name. And at the end, it will just just loading the data to your data frame. We have done it before, and in the previous sessions. I don't want to take time for this guy. So it is loaded, and the data should be in a table called cells in our tables. If it does, let me just go to our I think I had to it was the default actually. It is created on the other lake house that I've created. Let me just create. Let me stop the session and add this one. Just make sure that we are going to load the data into the lake house that we are working on. Of course, the first time that we are starting a notebook, it is going to take time to start the session. But after that, it's going to be much faster. I'm not sure why it is not loading the data here. Never table. The default is the only thing that we have, right? Should be added here, but this is strange. This is strange. Shows it is completed and it gave us error. The width column is just complaining about this. Okay, so nothing should be wrong with this. Let me check. You're adding first code, first name to this, and reading the data bit from here, files new data. Unless it is going to this writing into another thing. Let's just not spending much time on this guy. Let me create a new notebook quickly, and let's add our lake house here. Save time. And also let's give it a name. Transform cells and session 04. Let's keep it as is, and then execute this guy. It is still complaining about this one. Do we have any columns like this, customer name, in the file that we copied? Oh, there's no customer name here. Okay. Do I have the right file? Something has changed in the source file. So let's quickly just ignore this one. And let's check And instead of this, and let's ignore these two, and let's hope it's gonna work. Another thing. Let me check. The source has been changed. So we have the sales order ID, order date, customer ID, lineup, product ID, order quantity, and these guys. Okay, let's just leave it as is. If that's works, and let's ignore this section as well. Make sure it is going to work. And it's going to be created in our table. These testings are a good thing that we can just learn from the failure, right? And we can just learn how when something goes wrong, how we are going to track it, and how we will just fix it, right? So it is succeeded, and let's just double check if the table now is created. Yeah, we've got our sales table, which is good. Let's back to our pipeline. So in the pipeline, then we can just find that newly created notebook here. Save it, and then we can just run everything. We can validate it and run it. The other thing that we can add here in the activities, it can be a deleting of the data, right? Before, for example, loading of a data, we can just delete that. From where we can say, for example, from this Lakehouse 4, and whatever that is sitting underneath of this folder. Right here, we can say star.csv. If I'm not mistaken. Yep. Then we don't want any logging or something. And let's just validate it. No error. You can save it. And then execute the whole thing. If it is going to delete that, and then copy the file from that HTTP, then transform it in our notebook. In the meantime, let's have a look at our progress. So we have done, we have just walked through the activities in order to run and monitor that. We could see what is happening there. And then, yeah, this is the knowledge check. Let's have a look at this one and see everything is, working well, and the data is available in the table, of course. And as you can see, we have a run ID that can be utilized later, and you can even export it to CSV, the whole execution, how long it took time per each item, and what was the input and output of each step. Yeah, that's it. You can cancel it anytime that you want, and yeah. Cool. Let's go with the knowledge check for this section of the working with the pipelines in Data Factory. It's almost an hour. We will have to just cover the next section for data flow, which is going to be a bit shorter than the pipeline itself. But let's go with the knowledge check. we always experience the low numbers, and during the week, people are working from different places, and for me it is working hour, which is this. I'm going to actually starting a bit later, and of course finishing later. But yeah, we've got Javier here, BCB. War. Cool. Let's save more time. And here we can see, yeah, BCV. Awesome, Javier. A pipeline is a sequence of activities to orchestrate a data ingestion or transformation process. And yeah, Kanti, 1B, awesome. And for the next one, basically when you wanted to just specify a specific name for a folder, actually it is going to be parameterized. A parameter can be added to the pipeline and just make it more dynamic. Awesome, Shanti. And when basically you want to check the execution time of each pipeline, you can just check the run history. And congratulations, the first actually another module is completed here. If there's any question, just feel free to yeah, Shanti, thank you, to the chat. And the next module is ingest data with Dataflows Gen 2 in Microsoft Fabric. What we are going to learn today in this module is that we are going to be able to describe data flows capabilities in Fabric, how we can create the data flow solutions, and actually to ingest and transform the data, and how we are going to integrate it and include it in a pipeline. Firstly, let's understand what's happening with data flow Gen 2. For those who are coming from a background of Power BI, it is much easier to understand it. But in Fabric, we have the Gen 2, and which is a cloud-based ETL tool to build and execute the scalable data transformation processes. You can extract the data from various sources, and then transform it with a wide range of transformation operations, and then load it into a destination. It is optional for the loading, but you can always also load it in the data flow itself. So basically, a data flow can be included in as an activity in the pipeline, or it can be executed by itself, right? And it is a good thing to create a semantic model to be used by data analytics, and for analytical purposes. It can be involved in ETL and ELT processes, as we mentioned in the beginning of the session, that it can be used after a data is loaded already by a copy data activity in pipeline, or it can itself load the data, transform it, and then extract the data, transform it, and then load it. And the data flows can be executed manually or by schedule, or even as part of a pipeline, and the pipeline itself can be scheduled or triggered manually. You can have the data flows in your Power BI desktop. you can connect from Power BI desktop. You can just connect to the available data flows where it made available. Actually, it made available. And in order to create the data flows in Fabric, we are using Power Query Online, which is giving us a fantastic actually tool, and to have a no code low code experience of extracting and transforming the data, even for loading. And there we will have some steps there. We will cover that in later slides. There are some benefits and limitations, of course, in data flow. The benefits are, it is going to actually give you more power with your data, by adding some other data sets to your, semantic model. For example, you can add a, dimension date table, right? Which is, a good thing to have, a date dimension and just connect it to your other tables. It is going to allow the users to have a self-service, opportunity to just look at the data, work with the data, with a subset of the data. I mean, from a big data warehouse. So, of course, the data analysts are not going to utilize the whole data warehouse, and from there, it is very complex and to understand and to explore. So from there, we can just provide them with a subset of that data warehouse to be utilized for analytical purposes by data analysts. It is going to simplify this complexity. It is very optimized performance. We can have those options there. And in order to have a higher data quality and not having everything as raw data in our Fabric and in our lake houses, we can use data flow to just extract it and transform it, clean the data, and having a better quality of data in our lake house. And of course, with low-code interface that we have in Power Query Online, it is going to simplify the data integration experiences. There are some limitations in data flow, that it is not a replacement of data warehouse, but we just make it simpler version of data warehouse, a subset of that. There is no support of row level security. We have it in data warehouse, but not here. And a Fabric capacity workspace is required to have it. Where we can create the data flow in Fabric, we can create it in Data Factory. We can create it in Power BI workspace, and also in the Lakehouse. So let's have a look at this guy. Let's go to the Data Factory. We can create the data flow. Into here, when we create it, it is going to be like this. It is the landing page of the Power Query. We can just start from one of these tasks here. Actually, for loading for extracting the data, it can be imported from Excel, from SQL Server, or a text file that we are going to upload there. And yeah, that's it. And even we can import the data from other data flows, or getting the data from other sources like this, right? Like what we had in the pipeline. But here we've got more options for the data flow. We can have the Parquet file, directly. But however, for copying the data, the Parquet files are also available in the FTPs. So it is not specifically, there is no difference between them. But we are specifying a some a specific part, actually type of the files, right? And we can have the databases, wide range of databases here, more than what we had in pipeline for copying the data. We've got the Microsoft Fabric stuff, from data flows, from KQL databases or warehouses, lakehouses, and even data mods. And from the Power Platform, we can have the Dataverse like we had in pipeline, and the other things, from Power BI data flows, the legacy data flows that we have there previously. And yeah, and from Azure, you can see the services that are available in Azure, the online services. So as you can see, it is providing us with a wide range of sources. What are your cases in terms of the source? And also the other things, there's a lot, you can just bring it from Spark or something like that. But for today's session, we can just import it from a text file, a raw file, actually, a CSV file. Let's copy the URL and let's create a new connection. And then there's no gateway required for us, and we can leave it as anonymous. This file is available publicly. And so let's wait for this one. Here we can just change the delimiter if it is something else, or changing the format of the file, or we are going to just detect it based on how many rows of the file. You can leave it as is, and then let's create it. So when we land to the Power Query with a loaded data, let's just have a look at the environment of Power Query itself. So on top, we have this ribbon that is providing us with different capabilities. We can add the data from another data sources. We can just enter the data, or some sort of options that we can make, just do the configuration in the Power Query itself. We can refresh the data if the data has been changed in the source, right? And and other things, you can just bring Copilot up. We have the Copilot here. It should be activated for the workspace in order to use. And then we can just do some transformation to the data itself, and adding the columns, and how we are going to view the whole environment here. In the left side, we've got the queries, right? The queries are basically our data sources. It is our data sources that are going to that are already loaded. If we add more data from different data sources, it's going to be added here. Here you can just rename them, duplicate them, or changing the reference, and whatever that is needed for this data source or query. In the middle, let's do it in the right side. In the query setting, we have some properties like name. What kind of what is the name of that? We can just change it. But in the middle of that, we have the applied steps, which is the important part of this data flow environment. That each activity that we do for the transformation, for loading the data, for extracting the data, each of them are going to represent one or more steps that are already applied to that data set, to that data source. For example, here it is just specifying the source, right? And on top, you can see the query of that, the step script that is written in M code, right? If you're familiar with that, good for you. And even we can see the whole query of the the steps, right? And for each step, we are just adding something to the to our data set. For example, we are going to add a column, right? We go to the add column tab, and let me just copy the name of it quickly. And we can just having a custom column here. Let's call it as month number. And here we can make use of the Power Query formula, right? That, for example, here we've got a column called order date, and we can make use of the function of month of the date, right? And here you have the available columns. Even if you can just delete that, and by clicking on it and insert the column here, right? And you can just specify the data type of the column that we are going to create, right? And for this one, which is going to be month number of the date, it will be a whole number. Let's add it. As you can see, a new step is added here, and also a code is already added in the advanced editor, right? So we can just check the advanced editor. It is going to show us that M code, and you can just do the changes there as well, right? You can change the column name. And as you can see, a new column is added here, the month number. And then let me check. Okay, and as I mentioned, we can optionally add a destination for our data set. So it is loaded, then we are going to add to a destination. Let's add it to a destination. For example, we can have these destinations at the moment. We can load it to Azure SQL database in the lakehouse that we have in Fabric, and warehouses and Azure Data Explorer. We will use the lakehouse. What lakehouse we are going to? Actually, it is the connection. Connection is from the existing one that we have, the organizational accounts that I'm connected. There's no need to add any other kind of authentication. And from there, we can see the workspaces. With the first workspace that we have is this guy, and what basically warehouse lakehouse is going to be utilized for this one, and what will be the name of our table when we want to load that one. We can create a new table, or even adding to an existing table. For this one, it is a new table, and so we can just have just selection of the column mapping. It is automatic, actually. Automatic mapping is we are adding everything there, and we can also have an append of the data, right? It is going to whatever that is, a new record or change record. A new record is going to be added to your table. And if it is going to replace whatever that we have, we can have the schema. It can be a dynamic schema or a fixed schema. So for this one, let's leave it as the append, and we can just select what fields we need, what columns we need to be loaded there. Let's leave it as is. And yeah, that's it. It is there. And as you can see, we can just publish it. We can publish it for later, publish it later, or publish it now. Let's publish it now. When we publish it, the data is going to be refreshed, and it is going to be basically loaded to our lakehouse. And it takes time to do the refreshing. It keeps running, and the refresh date is here. Once it is completed, we can just open it or even utilize it somewhere else. And let me see what I have in my slides. Oh, let me check something. I wanted to mention one more thing here, how we can see the, if it opens. Yeah, we have to wait for its completion. Then we can open the data flow. Data flow 6. Okay, done. And let's open it. I just forgot to mention something here. So you can see the diagram here, right? And that diagram is basically showing us the steps that we have already done so far, right? The steps can be listed like what we had before, like this, or even as be part of a diagram. And in the query, as I mentioned, you can have the step query, for that specific step, or the whole query, or even make it off if you're not comfortable with the codes. So let me go to our workspace. We have to just close. Oh, yeah, we have to close the Power Query if you want to just work with the other sections in Fabric. It is called, Data Flow 6. And from here, we can just look at the refresh history. We can do other settings. You can edit that, and this one, and even with this button, you can refresh the data, or you can schedule the refresh. We are not going to do that now because we want to add it to a pipeline. The pipeline that we have created previously, is not really related to this basically pipeline that we have created. It is something else, but we can add it here. We can add it as a data flow, and we can call it something. And then in the setting, we can just find it and add it to our pipeline. Easy. And yeah, that's it. It can be executed from here, and then the data will be loaded to the lakehouse. Let's check it. Let's wait for its execution and see what's going to be happen there. While this one is loading, let me bring my slides up. So we have integrated that with Pipeline by adding a data flow activity and just connected with that one. And we have just a look at how we can refresh the data flows from workspace and how we add it to the pipeline. There is another possibility in data flow, which is a fantastic one also, is the fast copy at the scale. And it should be activated for the data flow. we will just see where we can activate it in the Power Query options, but it is not available for all the sources and all transformations. But it is a good thing if you have your data in either Azure Data Lake storage, blob storage, Azure SQL databases, or other lake houses, and even PostgreSQL. And the transformations that are included in this fast copy, or you can just combine the files, select columns, change the data types, which is good, and renaming a column or removing a column. And let's see how we can. This one is completed. Awesome. Let's just confirm that if the data is already loaded in our table. Yeah, we have the orders here, and let's confirm the data is loaded here with that additional column that was added for month's number, right? You can see that here. Awesome. And in the data flow, let's see the options. For the options, you can go to the data flow section at the scale. And for this Power Query, for this data flow, we can just allow the use of fast copy, connectors, right? When we are going to just do the copy of the data, then it will be available for us there. Yeah, the knowledge check of data flows. Let's see. No, go for it. We're almost done. And for those who are watching the recorded video, for you, this knowledge check is for you as well. You can just write in the comments and just check it with the next slide to see if you're successful or not. Shanti for 1C. And do we have any more? Javier C, B, C. Cool. And Shanti is Silja. Shanti for 2 is C. Awesome. And for the third question. Cool. Let's move to the next slide. It is CCA, right? Which we have. A data flow Gen 2 is basically a way to import and transform the data with Power Query Online. And we can create the data flow Gen 2. Javier, no worries, man. You're gonna make it. So the data flow can be created in either in a data factory or even in a lake house, right? So the data factory makes more sense because it is, the experience of data integration and data ingestion stops. But however, it is available in the lakehouse as well. And as you mentioned, as you noticed that in the pipeline, we could just create the new new data flow, right? It is going to just redirect you to the data factory. So, and in order to actually load your data into actually somewhere in the lake house, then you can just transform it from data flow, and then just load it to your lake house. If you're not comfortable using Spark notebooks, you don't know anything about PySpark or these things, then yeah, and congratulations, you hit the next module here in just data with the data flow Gen 2 in Microsoft Fabric. If there's any question, let's answer them. If not, we can just wrap up the session. Yeah, we're almost in the halfway of our build edition challenge. 4 sessions are done. The next session, session 5, will be 8 June at 8 a.m. Pacific Date Time. And thank you all for joining. And just make sure you register for the session 5. And if you haven't watched the other videos, you can just or if you want to watch them again, you're more than welcome to do that. It is already in the YouTube channel. And if you like that, just give me a thumbs up. You can just subscribe to the channel as well if you would like to have more videos like that. And in the next session, in session 5, we will talk about the data warehouses and how to work with them. And stay tuned, and thank you very much for joining. And if there is nothing else, we can just wrap up the session. And good luck, everyone, and thank you for joining again. Shanti, thank you. Let's hope we will have more, Fabric learners. And stay tuned. Have a good one. Cheers.